folks, Ted from Immersion here, and it's time to fill out another survey for Unearthed Arcana. We recently had the Subclasses Part 4. That's the one, if you missed, that I reviewed from my car during the hurricane, which was the College of Spirits Bard and the Undead Patron for Warlocks. So it's kind of fun for me now because Unearthed Arcana has turned into two pieces of content, both the review of the actual new content and then filling out the survey. And I do actually enjoy filling out the surveys with you, in this video format, because one, it forces me to actually do the survey, which is something good. If the folks from Wizards do end up watching this video, they'll get to see, what I put in and kind of get a thought process behind why I said what I said. And then it also gives you an idea of what kind of stuff I'm looking for and how I go about filling out these surveys. So you have a concept of maybe what kind of stuff you want to put in the survey for yourself, or once again, just as a reminder to, hey, go do the survey. So before we jump into that, I just wanted to remind everybody that I do have a giveaway going on to get the limited edition copy of Mythic Odysseys of Theros, as well as a standard edition copy. And there'll be a link in the description for that. And I'm giving away 2 copies. It ends tonight at 11:59 p.m. Eastern of Exploring Eberron, Keith Baker's new PDF on the DM's Guild. That's basically Keith Baker's Eberron, if you will, expansion of what's already out there. So that being said, let's jump over to the Wizards of the Coast website. Here we can see the Unearthed Arcana. There is the link to the actual subclasses, which is right here. And then there is a link to the survey. So I thought I'd have both open. We'll start the survey, and if we need to reference back to the Unearthed Arcana, we will. So let's go ahead and click that open. So, would you like to rate? I wonder if you say no if it just ends. So, would you like to rate the material presented in subclasses? Yes. What was the first edition of D&D that you played? 3rd. Okay. Do you enjoy playing a Bard in 5th edition? Yes. Do you enjoy playing a Warlock in 5th edition? No. And I do love playing Bards. Bards are actually one of my first ever character multi-classed into Bard. The first character I ever played independently of a home game outside of my first character in like an Adventures League ongoing scenario was a Bard. In our evil game right now, I'm playing a Bard. I really like Bard a lot. And I like base Bard a lot. The subclasses just add that much more extra flavor. I enjoy playing a Bard quite a bit. Now, the reason that I'm putting in here that I don't like Warlock is because I honestly don't. Hexblade, so that's like the tricky thing. If they had an option that said, no, but I still like Hexblade, I would choose that. Because Hexblade, I feel like, is a whole different animal when it comes to Warlock. I have tried Warlock, and the only thing I've really enjoyed about a Warlock is the Hexblade, because I can still fall back on being a good melee fighter, and then, have Eldritch Blast as a backup. But the limited spell slots, and it just bothers me, and I think, and the way the invocations are sort of keyed certain ways and not others, I think it's on my list of things to fix. I need to get to it. I just need to get back into a fixing mindset to jump back into that. So that's why I'm saying no to Warlock in 5th edition. Let's move on. All right. Have you played the College of Spirits Bard subclasses? Sadly, no. I also would have liked to have run it as a playtest, but I don't have the opportunity. So College of Spirits overall, how do you feel about it? I'd say I'm satisfied with it overall. Let's go back and look up the different abilities. Guiding Whispers, is the guidance cantrip out to 60 feet? Yeah, very. You know what? Let's do this. Let's split screen here. So Guiding Whispers, how do I feel about that? Oh, I didn't. There we go. I feel very satisfied about Guiding Whispers. That's the 60-foot guidance. That's great. Spiritual Focus, I'm very satisfied with that. I like the concept of the just the flavor of using different things like a Taraka deck, Crystal Ball, that kind of stuff to expand your material components rather than just an instrument. Tales from Beyond. Now this is the one that I definitely screwed up in the video that I had because I was, again, reading it in my car. So I thought it was a bonus action to use. You use a bonus action to roll on this table to tell a tale for something of 1 through 12, and then you use an action to activate it. So how do I feel about this? I'm gonna say I'm satisfied with it. You know, it has some really good options and some. Actually, they're all pretty much good. I do enjoy all of them. I don't like that I have to basically use my entire turn of a bonus action and an action if I want to use it immediately. I guess the benefit is you could use a bonus action to roll on it at some point before you finish a short or long rest to have, like, basically start of the day, roll on the table. Okay, I've got this tail in the tank for when it's time, and then you can pull it out. Or, you know what, I don't like it, I'll take a short rest, get a new one, and then try it again. I guess that's probably the better way to do it. So that's why I'd say I'm just satisfied with it. But I like the damage, and I've said this before countless times, especially in my fixing videos. The best way, I think, to truly make subclasses gel well with the base class is pretty much every subclass, or every class rather, has a unique class mechanic. And the best way to go about it, I should take my own advice in this in some cases, the best way to make things interesting is to utilize that resource, whatever that mechanic is, in interesting ways. So for example, Bard has Bardic Inspiration. It obviously has its base uses of Bardic Inspiration, but I really like that a lot of, almost every Bardic subclass has a means of which you can expend your Bardic Inspiration and have it do something different, right? So for a College of Lore Bard, that's cutting words and reducing, an enemy's thing, which is something a normal Bard can't do. For a College of Whispers Bard, you can expend it to do Psychic Blades to deal more damage. For the College of Spirits Bard, you can expend it in one of these ways to either deal damage, do healing, whatever else. I like that. And that's what I think we should try to emulate going forward with other classes. Like, you know, they started doing it a lot more with the Unearthed Arcana Druid, where Wild Shape is, like, Wild Shape base can turn you into an animal, but this subclass allows you to utilize your Wild Shape in a new way to do something else. So I like that. Maybe, and then I think other subclasses should do that. There's certain classes that have some issues with it. Some are inborn, right? Like a cleric has Channel Divinity, and that could be wildly different from one cleric to the next. Same thing with, like, a paladin has Channel Divinity. They can change that up. But, like, a sorcerer just has sorcery points. So unless you could, and some of them have done this, you get through the subclass different ways to spend your sorcery points. You can spend a sorcery point to do X, to summon a shadow, like Hound, if you're the shadow sorcerer, right? Wizards don't really have anything, and I think that's because base wizard is very vanilla. It doesn't have a lot. All the stuff comes from the subclass. But, you know, I think that would be something interesting, because that's where I think the ranger fails a lot of the time. The ranger doesn't have a unique mechanic, in my mind, that really is like a resource that they can expend that's you could tweak and alter enough in a subclass. But we're not here to talk about ranger. Let's get back on track. Oh, and then they went into the individual. Oh, okay. So the individual, I didn't even read that. I just went off on my soapbox here. So Tales from the Beast, or Tales from Beyond Beast. For a minute, advantage on perception checks and advantage on attack rolls. Okay, so I'm satisfied with that, because it's like a pack tactics. Warrior, make a melee spell attack against a target. As a spectral warrior, briefly appears. On a hit, the target takes force damage equal to 2 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die. I'm satisfied with that, because remember, you are not going to have multiple attacks unless you multi-class. This will be a good way to do, like, a big melee hit as an action. Friends, let's see. You recite the tale of friends, a target and another creature roll and get hit points. Yeah, that's good. That's good action healing. And it's Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier. So pretty early on, that's going to be, at level 5, that's going to be equal to a Cure Wounds, and then it will very quickly outclass Cure Wounds as far as the damage dice to a D10 and up to a D12, and it's 2 for 1. Runaway, target can immediately use its reaction to teleport 30 feet to an unoccupied space. When a target teleports, it can choose a number of creatures it can see within 30 feet up to your Charisma modifier. I mean, it's an action teleport. Like, these are all really good. So as I'm going through these, I'm like, well, maybe I am very satisfied with the whole thing. For 1 minute, whenever a target creature you can see is damaged by a creature, you can use reaction to deal force damage equal to an inspiration roll. I'm only satisfied with that. It's good, though, because it's retributive damage. You speak the tale of an epic hero. Choose a creature. They gain temporary hit points equal to the roll of your bardic inspiration die plus your bard level. While it has these temporary hit points, its walking speed increases by 10 feet. That's pretty solid. Fae, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or be charmed by you. The charmed target must make an attack, use its action to make an attack against a creature other than itself that you choose. The target can act normally if you choose no target. I'm satisfied with that. It's pretty good. It's converting an enemy to an ally. Dark Spirit comes invisible. If it hits a creature with an attack during this invisibility, that creature takes necrotic damage equal to a roll of your bardic inspiration die and is frightened. I like that because I like the synergy with a rogue. You speak of the deeds of a mighty giant. Let's see. Make a strength saving throw, taking force damage. Each creature of your choice within 30 feet must make a strength saving throw or take force damage equal to 2 rolls of your bardic inspiration die and be knocked prone. That's pretty solid. Actually, I think I'm warming up to just the entire thing overall. Dragon Breath, you spew fire from your mouth. Each creature in a 30-foot cone must make a dex save or take damage equal to 3 bardic inspiration rolls, half as much on a success. That's interesting because right out the gate, I think it's better or on par with a Dragonborn's breath weapon, and then very quickly yours will become 3d8 and then eventually 3d12, so your breath weapon will be better than a Dragonborn's, which is another reason that the Dragonborn needs help. You speak of the exalted deeds of the Celestial. Target regains hit points equal to 2 rolls of your bardic inspiration die plus your bard level, and you cure 1 disease. I mean, that's some of the best healing in the game right there. And then Unknown, choose a creature within 30 feet. They must make an intelligence save or take psychic damage equal to your bardic and 3 rolls of your bardic inspiration die. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I'm a big fan of it overall. Spirit Session, you conduct an hour-long ritual using your spiritual focus. And this is where you get to just basically pick another spell of your choice. And of a ritual, you temporarily learn 1 spell. Spell you choose must be of a level equal to the number of creatures that conducted the ritual. So I'm satisfied with this. The whole ritual thing seems kind of funky, but the fact that you could just learn any spell that you can cast of a level you can cast is fantastic, because that's like the ultimate. Well, it will be super useful if we had this thing when we go into this scenario. Oh wait, I do. Let's move on. And lastly, Mystical Connection. Whenever you use your Tales from the Beyond feature, you can choose to use a D6. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that they've done this with like the College of Swords Bard and things like that, where you can just basically say, I want to use my ability, but I don't have to expend a bardic inspiration. I can just use a standard D6. Comments on College of Spirits as is presented in the new Unearthed Arcana. Optional. This is an optional thing we can put in here. I'm going to say I like it. I like it, period. I really like the additional, as I had said, additional uses of bardic inspiration, making it feel more unique than other subclasses. I do feel like it is a little on the front-loaded side, because don't forget that the spiritual focus, we didn't really talk about it. At 6th level, when you're whenever you deal damage or restore hit points while using your spiritual focus, you gain a bonus to 1 roll of the spell equal to the number rolled. So basically, you can get an extra d6 of hit points or an extra d6 of damage, and that's unlimited 1 roll every time. So you can just add that. So your Cure Wounds that would do, at level 6, that would do, say, 3d8 plus your Charisma modifier would do 3d8 plus a d6 plus your Charisma modifier. And that's just like a freebie thing you always have. And I feel like it's snuck in Spiritual Focus. Like everybody, like at least me, I focus on this part. And then they're like, oh, hey, there's an extra cool thing that you have. I don't really have anything that I would change or alter. I think I really like the class as it stands. It seems like a lot of new subclasses to have a lot of features at level 3. If this is going to be the new norm, I think several older subclasses for all, make that all caps, all classes should be updated as well. This doesn't have to be an errata, but could be offered as a variant rule in a future source book. Okay. Have I tested the Underworld Otherworldly Patron? No. Am I very satisfied with this overall? So this is what I said in that video, and I'll stick by it. As I stated kind of in my little tangent rant that I had there, I don't really like Warlock. I think I like the concept of it. I liked it a lot back in 3.5 when I first saw it, and I see a lot of things have translated from that. And I don't, like I said, I don't know 4th edition, so I don't know how much of the Warlock made it into 4th edition from that 4th edition made it here to 5th. I know it existed. It was a base class. It was not a base class, for those of you who don't know, in 3.5. You had to get it in another book. Like I said, I think a lot of my issues with Warlock are with the base class, not with the subclasses. And I think Hexblade is fantastic. It also paved the way for things like Battlesmith Artificer, and I'm assuming will likely pave the way for other things like that in the future, where we'll have other subclasses that make the melee version, make you like a single stat source. Like, you know, there's a cleric that at level 1 can use its wisdom modifier for attack and damage rolls, so that way you can just dump all your points in wisdom and be fine. So anyway, let's take a look. So expanded spell list: Bane, False Life, Blindness, Deafness, Phantasmal Force, Speak with Dead, Phantom Steed, Death Ward, Greater Invisibility, Anti-Life Shell, Cloud Kill. So we talked about this in that original video, that it did seem very similar to the Undying Patron, which is often touted as one of the worst subclasses in all of 5th edition. I do like this list. I don't particularly love the way expanded spell lists work for Warlocks. I think that should just kind of be like domain spells, and they're just added. You're still hard limited by your spell slots, which is usually, for most people playing a Warlock, 2 from level 3 to level 11. It's 2 spell slots. So you're pretty much hard limited there. Let them have the extra spells. So what if they have more options? They still can't cast them. So I don't imagine Bane or False Life there's an invocation that basically gives you False Life, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not really I don't like Bane particularly myself. Blindness, Deafness is a solid debuff. Phantasmal Force is one of my favorite spells in 5th edition because of the amount of leniency and things you can do with it. So that's a good addition. Speak with Dead is a good situational useful spell. As a Warlock, I wouldn't want to take it because it would burn my limited slots. Phantom Steed, another super useful utility spell. You are a Warlock, you got to balance it out. Death Ward and Greater Invisibility, both exceptionally powerful spells, especially because you could Death Ward someone, short rest, get it back, and do it again. Greater Invisibility, again, you're going to get a lot of leverage out of Greater Invisibility because of the fact that you can still attack while you're invisible. And then Anti-Life Shell and Cloud Kill. I don't really like Cloud Kill myself, and Anti-Life Shell gets such limited use because I think it's only a druid spell. It's nice to see someone else get it. So overall, I'm going to say I'm satisfied with those. I'm going to say I'm slightly satisfied. So, Form of Dread. Now, let's take a look at this one. This one is one of the reasons that I said I would really want to play this. As a bonus action, you transform for 1 minute. You gain temporary hit points equal to a d10 plus your Warlock level, so some more survivability. Once during each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack, you can force it to make a wisdom saving throw, and if it fails, it's frightened of you until the end of your next turn. You are immune to the frightened condition. You can transform a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. The appearance of your form of dread reflects some aspect of your patron. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this ability right out the gate, super good. I could see a lot of really good multi-class uses with this. Particularly the Conquest Paladin comes to mind because they have all the stuff that are triggered off of fear effects. And this is giving you a basically once a turn chance to inflict fear. And it's when you hit a creature with an attack. So if you end up multi-classing with the Paladin, get multiple attacks. Or, Eldritch Blast is multiple attacks. You can possibly trigger that fear effect very frequently. So I'm very satisfied with Form of Dread. I also like that they decided to go with proficiency bonus. See, these are like more often than not when something tells you can do something proficiency bonus times, I often feel like it should be ability score modifier times. So that usually starts as a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 5, because typically the max you can get in an ability score is 20. And that further puts you into the need to pump up that base ability score. I guess it's a little bit different for the Warlock in this scenario because Charisma is kind of your main casting stat. So if it was Charisma, you're already going to have a good Charisma in theory. So I guess I like that, I guess, more on subclasses where you're getting a new ability. Like if you're a class that's now getting spellcasting, or some sort of spell-like abilities, have it tied to whatever the casting stat is. That way it forces you to put more points into it, kind of like the Arcane Archer, maybe having intelligence modifier times arcane shots per day. So proficiency bonus is interesting because you're always going to have 2 no matter what, and you're going to get up to 6, which is very interesting. Grave Touched. You do not need to eat, drink, or breathe. Nice flavor stuff there. In addition, when you hit a creature with an attack roll and roll damage against that creature, you can replace the damage type with Necrotic. While you are using your Form of Dread, you can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the necrotic damage the target takes. So I'm very satisfied with this because, again, as far as I can understand, if I use Grave Touched while I have my Form of Dread active, I can choose to switch the damage of any attacks that I make to necrotic. Let's use, again, Eldritch Blast as the example. I use Eldritch Blast. Now Eldritch Blast is necrotic damage instead of force, but I can add an extra d10 to that roll. And it's when you hit a creature with attack and roll damage. So if I hit someone with my first blast of Eldritch Blast, I attack, I roll damage, I roll 2d10 damage. Then if I shoot the second blast at him and hit him, I do it again. And that would basically double the damage output of my Eldritch Blast, but the downside is it becomes necrotic, and if something's resistant or not, then that may be an issue. Mortal Husk. You have resistance to necrotic damage all the time. If you're transformed using your Form of Dread, you are immune instead, which is cool, because potentially you could do AoE stuff maybe on top of yourself and be immune to it. That could be an interesting kind of move. In addition, when you are reduced to 0 hit points, you cause your body to explode. You don't have to. Each creature within 30 feet of you takes necrotic damage equal to 2d10 plus your Warlock level. You then revive with 1 hit point in your previous space along with your gear, and you gain 1 level of exhaustion. Once you revive this way, you can't do so again until you finish 1d4 long rests. So when you're dropped to 0 hit points, you don't even have to be killed outright, just drop to 0 hit points. You can choose to explode. This is also essentially like a death ward. When you drop to 0 hit points, you're going to come back with 1. It doesn't distinguish friend and foe though, so you will deal damage to everyone, 2d10 plus 10 as of when you gain this, and a level of exhaustion. I'm not super keen. I'm going to say I'm still sad. I'm very satisfied with this, but I don't like the idea of 1d4 long rests because I don't like having to keep track of that, just because it seems different than other things in 5th edition, but regardless. And then lastly, Spiritual Projection. You can project your body forth as an action, Spiritual Project. Your body stays behind as an unconscious. Your spirit can remain outside of your body for up to 1 hour until concentration is broken. When it ends, your spirit returns to your body, or you magically teleport to your spirit, your choice. And it's when the projection ends. So if it ends early because of concentration being lost, then you can choose to teleport your body. So what's interesting is, in theory, if your body gets attacked while your spirit is out elsewhere and it makes you drop concentration, you may know, like, oh crap, I got attacked, my body's going to be killed. You could teleport your body to the spirit and then you're out. While in that, your spirit and your body both gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, slashing damage. When you cast a spell of the Conjuration or Necromancy school, the spell does not require verbal, somatic, or material components that lack a gold cost. So you can still cast any spell. Those ones just are uncounterspellable because you don't make any movements. The spells just happen. You have a fly speed equals your walk speed and can hover. You can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take a d10 force damage if you end inside a creature or object. But it doesn't do it. It's just 1d10 force damage. It doesn't like jettison you out or anything else, and it's not continual. It's just a d10. So you could potentially move through a wall, take a d10 force damage on your next turn, and then keep going through said wall after the fact. So that's something to consider. Again, if you have increased movement speed, that will be better. I don't know how many Conjuration and Necromancy school spells Warlocks have access to know how useful the no components is, but still good. And then while you're using your Form of Dread, once during each of your turns when you deal necrotic damage to a creature, you regain hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic damage dealt. So it's only once during your turn, but again, if you did everything else we talked about with Eldritch Blast, your Eldritch Blast would deal 2d10 damage. If you have Agonizing Blast, that's going to be 2d10 plus your Charisma modifier necrotic damage, and you potentially could crit, making that 4d10 plus your Charisma modifier necrotic damage. And then once a turn, if this is all active, you could deal all that damage and then heal yourself half of that damage that you dealt, and that's once a long rest. So again, I'm very satisfied with that as well. So let's open this up to full screen and we'll say, okay, I love this subclass. We're doing all caps because we mean it. I haven't had any desire to play a Warlock outside of Hexblade, and this is the first time that has changed. The extra damage, magical projection, inborn healing, etc. are all excellent subclass abilities. My least favorite part is the expanded spell list. I also don't love how Warlock's expanded spell list works in the first place. They're hard limited by spell slots. What's the difference with giving them those extra spells automatically known, in parentheses here, similar to domain spells? Hard limited by spell slots, what's the difference with giving them those extra spells automatically known, similar to domain spells? They're still limited by how many slots they have. Perhaps in a future variant sourcebook, they could gain those expanded spells automatically known over time. Either way, keep up the good work with classes, with subclasses like this. I also feel if you're going to introduce new subclasses, you should also introduce new invocations, at least one specific invocation for each subclass to help it feel unique and not just take the standard number of the standard warlock invocations. Agonizing blast, armor of shadows, etc. Okay. There. How interested are you playing these subclasses in the future? Slightly interested in College of Spirits, very interested in Undead Patron. Also, point of fact, if you're going to have the entire article be the dissatisfied, uninterested option on the left and the very satisfied, interested option on the right, don't switch it immediately at the bottom to be the other way around. We've gotten used to reading it the whole way. You know, you flip it around the other way. Like, I almost went over here to click this because it was the farthest option, and they switched it around backwards. So, next, any additional comments? Let's see. I'm worried with receiving these UA so late in the year. There's no way we'll get them published in a player-based source book that releases in 2020. But also, still, let's change this. I know it seems to be against 5th edition policy, but I believe with the development of new subclasses that outshine and overpower existing spell classes, or existing subclasses, i.e. the Undead Patron versus the Undying Patron, you need to go back and adjust those. I know you don't want to limit your design going forward by what you've done in the past, but this just seems like lazy design philosophy. Philosophy. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Let's see. How else do we want to change this? If there is either real or perceived power creep in the game due to overpowered and stronger subclass options, no one is going to be upset by you adjusting slash fix, let's call it updating old subclasses. For example, compare the Forge domain cleric to the War domain cleric. I have countless other options or other examples of this, as I'm sure do many others. My name is Ted, and we're gonna go this way. My name is Ted, and I can be reached at nerdimmersion@gmail.com. I love D&D, and I love 5e. I'd be more than willing to help in whatever capacity you'll allow to bring the community's whatever capacity you'll allow to bring the community's thoughts, insights, and concerns to your attention while still balancing the fact that it is your product and your business. I realize this is probably silly to write in here, but it's 6 a.m. and I'm feeling inspired. Thanks for all you do. I look forward to the next UA release. Submit. So obviously that was a little more than I typically write in there, and I just usually give them more strategic stuff. But I thought, what the hell, right? What's the worst that could happen? They probably just don't read that part, and it is what it is. But for what it's worth, I thought I'd put it out there. So there you have it, folks. This is a much longer video. I think this might actually be longer than my review of the Unearthed Arcana at this point. But I wanted to put my thoughts out there. I wanted to fill out the survey, let you know what I thought. And I want to know what you thought. Did you fill out the survey? Do you think that the impact from the survey is significant enough that people will change, the Wizards of the Coast will change and alter the content accordingly? Do you think they focus on the written feedback more, or just the pipped, satisfied, unsatisfied? I'm very curious what your thoughts are. So let me know in the comments down below. Thank you again to my patrons on Patreon for continuing to support me and the channel, and I will see you all next time.